growth, death, cannibalism, and even more in this packed episode of Cole's Ants. And by more, I don't mean that there's things that are more extreme than cannibalism. I just meant that, other things occur in the video. There has been so much going on over the last few months with my colonies that I figured the best way to bring you up to date is to attempt to cover multiple overlapping stories in one big episode. Welcome back to the story of the ant. Okay, you know what? Now that I think about it, it seems kind of messed up to highlight cannibalism as a selling point for the video, so maybe just forget I said anything and then just, act surprised when it comes up. Cool? Cool. Welcome back to the story of the ants, Season 3. To fill you in on everything that's happened, let's go back to just a few months ago. My office is a mess right now. You can tell a lot about a person based on a room that they were able to freely decorate with no external influence. No, I'm not the only one. This is a workspace of a creative mind, okay? But it's particularly in disarray right now because my wife and I are getting ready to welcome a new colony member of our own into the world. And if you didn't know, babies take up a whole lot more space than ants. So all of this, including my ant colonies, will have to be moved out. As my office slowly evolves into a nursery, my ants and I are in need of a new home. Most of my colonies will also be moving into new nests as well. I've already covered 2 of those moves in previous videos. First was the Megamines, my colony of big-headed ants, followed by the Raiders of Arrakis, my desert long-legged ants. Now it's the Bulldozer's turn, my colony of rough harvester ants. These little bozos have to be my most entertaining colony by far. Their level of intelligence is just delightfully low. Why are you all so obsessed with this one particular corner? Their colony move was so much fun that I'm going to save the full story for the next episode. But overall, they're doing well and continuing to grow at a slow and steady pace. This is my temporary janky setup on top of my dresser. Currently, it is very hot in our house, much hotter than I would like it to be, but perfect for our little arthropod friends. So at least I don't have to worry about heating right now. There are a lot of stories here in progress that I will feature in future videos, but let's do a little check-in to see where everyone's at. In the last episode, I moved the Raiders of Arrakis, my colony of desert long-legged ants, into a new home to attempt to stop whatever was causing a string of mysterious deaths. This new nest was expandable and was the fastest I'd ever seen a colony initiate a move, which told me they really liked it. After about a week of being in their new desert hideout, I stopped finding bodies in the outworld. Another 3 weeks passed and still no deaths. This was great news. We had fought back against their long-standing colony curse. The desert was now theirs for the taking. Or so I thought. I went back to feed them, only to find 3 fallen soldiers had been claimed by the desert. Every time I've gone to feed them since, there has been at least 1 body. I'll have to try something else, as this wasn't the solution I had hoped for. What about Queen Midas and Queen Aurum, my dual colony of Camponotus CaO2? Last time they were featured, these 2 sisters had successfully started a new colony with a handful of workers. They were doing great until suddenly, workers started dying. Since then, the last few months has been a battle to keep the colony from collapsing, and I've gone to great lengths to save them. That story is still developing and deserves its own video, so I won't go into the details now, but I'm still hopeful that we can get a successful colony of these massive carpenter ants. Now, let's talk about the mischievous little Megamines. Last time I featured them in a video, they gave us a very entertaining and eventful move into their new home, a nest provided by the grafting ant. These big-headed ants are members of the species Pheidole bicarinata. Thankfully, I haven't had any issues with them dying, and their numbers are increasing by the day. Where things get a little tricky is with their size. Their first water tower turned out to be a little death trap, so I ordered a new one with a sponge so they wouldn't be able to drown. And do you know what they did? They squeezed their way into the little cracks and drowned. I mean, dying this way takes effort.
There's water right here. You don't have to go drown yourself to go find the water.
These little scientists always have a project going on. Right now, they're growing a garden from seeds that were supposed to be food. How did they get the seeds to sprout, you might ask? Well, they stacked a bunch of debris going from the sponge to the floor, creating a siphon that drained the water from the tower and irrigated the seeds. I mean, that's a wrinkle brain move right there. Unfortunately, I had to be the daisy cutter and remove them due to mold. Eventually, I found a water tower with small enough holes that they wouldn't drown. Only problem is, now they like to hang out in there like a little clubhouse, which makes it a little difficult to change their water now without getting my hand covered in ants. So I might go back to my DIY setup. And it's not just their water. It's, oops, I overhydrated the nest and now there's a panic of a flood. Oops, I put the lid on wrong and left a millimeter gap. Oops, I squish a few almost every time I feed them, but they're hardy little ants though, and hungry. They sure do love their fruit flies. They keep eating like this and their numbers are gonna explode. Many of you have asked how Laura Croft is doing, the queen of the Relic Raiders. She is the last of my original 5 ant queens from when I started this channel. She has a pretty wild story and has held on far longer than anyone could have guessed. I had buried her in the ground last year to let nature run its course after deeming her infertile, but after over 6 months it turned out she was still alive. She even had a larva and had survived without any food the whole time. Some people have accused me of staging this story, but I only use the events I observe when crafting these stories, good and bad. Otherwise I wouldn't write stories about my ants dying and me failing as an ant keeper. You just say, yeah, they're doing great. So why hadn't her larva developed into workers after all this time? Infertile queens can actually still have offspring, but they will become male drones. A male ant's only job is to leave the nest during a nuptial flight, mate with females looking to start their own colony, and then kick the bucket. That's a heck of a way to go out. But a new queen trying to start a colony needs workers, not drones. They're a waste of resources. Imagine your mom telling you you're a waste of resources and then eating you for the protein so she can try again. Nature ain't all sunshine and rainbows. She got stuck in an endless loop of laying eggs and then eating the larvae when she realized they wouldn't turn into workers. She had been doing this for over a year until one of the larvae got moldy and broke the cycle. So unfortunately, Laura Croft's story came to an end back in May. Then something happened in June that was unexpected. Ants are deciding to have a nuptial flight in our bedroom, and they are everywhere. They're all over the walls, on the sheets, crawling on the ceiling. I'm also not sure how to get them out of my house. Yes, our bedroom was the chosen venue for an ant mating party. These ants were from the genus Solenopsis, also known as fire ants, which grow extremely quickly. My wife wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of having a growing colony of fire ants living in our house, but it was such a freak happenstance that the ants would break into the ant guy's house to mate that I had to see what would happen. So after capturing some of the queens, I waited to find out if any of them would be able to produce workers. 2 of the queens did indeed lay eggs and were tending to them. One had even broken off their wings, which is an indicator that she's mated and ready to enter the founding stage. Now let's check in on the honeypot colonies. Only 3 of the 8 queens I captured back in February were fertile and were able to produce workers. I named them Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. Blossom and Buttercup did well enough for their colonies to get names. Blossom's colony was well in the lead and became the Rosebuds. Buttercup's was named the Reese's Puffs. Unfortunately, Bubbles was having a hard time keeping up with only 2 workers. As the weeks went on, I noticed that all 3 colonies were not eating any protein. I tried different types of food, but they only wanted the sugar. The Rosebuds were doing just fine though, with a growing population and a healthy pile of brood. So perhaps they were eating and I just didn't notice. They are small after all. I still don't know. Excuse me, ma'am, you've got some eggs stuck to your butt there? Yeah. Oh! The Reese's Puffs seemed to stay about the same around 8 workers for several weeks. And Bubbles was still having a tough time. Her tube had grown moldy. The water level had also dropped and was speckled with mold. I'm not sure why hers degraded so fast. On top of that, I found that one of the workers didn't make it, leaving her with just 1 worker and no brood. The following week, the water level on the Reese's Puffs was also looking low, so I figured I'd try giving both colonies a clean home. I inserted fresh tubes into the foam block, so they were nice and dark, then connected their current tubes, leaving them exposed to the light, to encourage them to move. But as I found out, honeypots are stubborn. They don't like moving. In fact, once the colony is bigger and has repletes, those fat little workers won't even be able to move themselves at all. I'll have to manually move each and every replete when they need a bigger nest. Over a week passed with the tubes exposed, and neither colony looked like they had any intention of moving. The mold situation in Bubbles' tube had gotten worse, and seeing as there were no eggs or larvae, I made the call that the colony had failed. There was still hope for the Reese's Puffs though, but they would need a little physical persuasion, so I dumped them into a small outworld and watched as they figured out what happened and where they were. The workers would eventually find their new home after quite a while, but Queen Buttercup knew exactly what to do, and after dusting herself off, ventured into the safety of the new nest. And then there are the concrete rebels, my sweet, sweet low-maintenance pavement ants. They have no drama to report, no deaths, no special needs, no escape attempts, no nest complications, nothing. I just give them food and they grow. That's it. Doesn't even matter what I feed them, they're not picky. While other colonies have their preferences or won't eat particular things, this colony does not care. I could drop in a spider that I killed in my house and a piece of old banana and they'd be perfectly happy. God, I respect that so much. Anyway, their numbers are growing, and they have a giant mound of brood, which means their leader, the queen pin, has been busy recruiting new members. These scrappy little rock stars take what they're given, don't complain, and make it work. And for that, I love you guys so much. I gave them a whole cricket for the first time, thinking that it might be too much food all at once for them, only to come back the next morning and find no trace of said cricket. The only evidence I could recover was this hollow shell of a head. They do not waste. Again, respect. Whoa, hey there, baby snatcher. Where are you going with that larva? That doesn't belong out here. Take that back. The very next day held one of the most incredible moments of my life. My son came into the world on July 18th, 2025. So far, it has been one of the greatest joys of my life to be a dad. That being said, if you have kids, I don't need to explain how fundamentally tired you are during those first several weeks. Just look at this behind the scenes clip of me about to record a scene for one of my future videos 12 days after his birth. Yeah, I shake it off and smile, but do not be fooled, that is the face of a tired man. The next month or so was kind of a blur. You find your brain doing things like almost putting your clothes in the dishwasher. It's very humbling. My ants didn't get a lot of attention for a while, so we'll fast forward a couple months to see how the colonies are doing. The raiders' trash pile was getting pretty full. Then I spotted something strange. Something that shouldn't be there. A wing. How could a wing have gotten in there? I looked around the nest for clues. Wait, is that a new queen? It was. Or more precisely, she was an elate. A virgin queen whose role it is to leave the nest during a nuptial flight and hopefully start a new colony of her own. We are approaching the time of year when their species reproduces, so she wasn't the only one. There were more. I could even see some in the larval and pupal stage. But as for the owner of this wing, there was no body, or second wingless queen wandering around, and there was no way she could have left the nest. In other words, there was an elate in this setup that doesn't exist anymore. As shocking as this was, it made sense. Elates, or male and female reproductives, are like deadbeat teenagers. They don't do any chores or help out around the house. They eat all your food and just kind of hang out, taking up space until they're kicked out of the nest. Now, a mature colony with hundreds or thousands of workers gathering food has enough resources to support these unhelpful teenagers until it's time for them to leave the nest. But for a small colony just starting out, resources are precious and hard to come by. They can't afford to have a bunch of freeloaders raiding the pantries. So yeah, they recycle the protein. Oh no, they're going after another one. Oh, they've got her by the wing. Run, queen, run. Come on, so close, so close. Yeet. Ah. To be clear, this wasn't happening because I'm not giving them enough food. This is just the natural behavior of a young colony conserving resources. But if you understandably don't want to see what happens next, you can skip to this timestamp. This wasn't looking good. Luckily, none of the other workers were joining in, so she has a fighting chance. Come on, you got it. The worker would not give up and continued attacking the queen. Now she's got her by the wing. Whoa! Oh my god, this is pretty violent. Don't quit. The worker has her by the leg now. I watched helplessly as the fight continued. All I could do was root for the queen. As they fight deeper and deeper into the nest, I start to worry that the other workers will start attacking too. But before that can happen, our young queen finds the strength to fight her way towards the exit, using her size to her advantage and dragging the worker behind her. So close. Yes! Once outside, she was away from the other workers, but she still had to shake off her attacker. Unable to run, she tried scaling the walls while her attacker did everything she could to pull her back down. Trying to climb the walls proved to be too difficult, and they fell, but this gave her the opportunity she needed to break free. Awesome. Now you can get away from— What are you doing? Don't go back in the lion's den, are you nuts? The fight continued inside the nest. After some struggling and realizing she made a horrible mistake, she even got picked up into the air at one point, which just shows how strong ants are. Exhausted from the struggle, it looked like she was about to give up. But then something in her dug deep and found the strength to keep fighting. She once again managed to make a break for the exit. Go, Queenie, go! This time, she managed to get away and didn't run back into the jaws of death. She was free. For now. But she was trapped, finding herself amidst the discarded wings of her unlucky sisters. What could she do? There was nowhere to go. My heart wanted to rescue her from such a gruesome fate. But this is the natural order of things, and even if I let her go, she would just be eaten by another predator. I didn't see what happens next, but I'll let you guess how the story ends. And unfortunately, the cannibalism doesn't stop there. I also found evidence of other colonies implementing their own recycling programs. That's right, I found wings in the trash piles of the concrete rebels and the megamines. So kumbaya, kids. Hope you sleep well tonight. It had been a while since I checked on the honeypots. The rosebuds seemed to be doing just fine, but I was left scratching my head when I pulled out the Reese's Puffs. The workers were gone. What? I scoured the whole setup, and there wasn't a single worker to be found. There weren't even any dead bodies. I didn't see any brood either. Just Queen Buttercup sitting there all by her lonesome self. But that could only mean— Yeah, that's right, you thought we were all done with cannibalism in this episode, but think again. What the heck, Buttercup? So you just snapped and went berserk all of a sudden? Look, I know some crazy moms out there, but this is like some next level psycho shit. Why, Buttercup? Why would you do this? And with no more workers to open the new cocoons, the Reese's Puffs have also fallen in one bizarre cannibalistic twist. Well, I certainly didn't see that one coming. Speaking of not seeing things coming, I bet you forgot about that random shot from earlier. I mean, how funny is that? You're watching a video about ants and then boom, you get flashed with that. Okay, moving on. What is happening? The next story I'm going to share is... I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Okay. This next story is something I'm very excited to share, and one of the most inspirational... Okay, I promise, I'm done. We're moving on this time. I got it out of my system. We're good. Let's see how our fire ant queens are doing. I've been tracking their progress over the last couple months, but unfortunately, none of the eggs ever developed into larvae. I must have captured most of them too early before they had a chance to mate, and these two just weren't fertile. Still, it was cool to observe some fire ant queens doing their thing. The megamines are booming. From the time they moved in until now, their nest is packed full of workers and brood, layered on top of each other. Next time you see them, they will probably be getting an upgrade to their nest. The concrete rebels are also growing, although they've been digging a tunnel through their sponge to get to the water source. Guys, don't you know what happens when you bore a giant hole through a dam? I might have to step in and intervene. The stories of the raiders and the minions of Midas are ongoing, and I'll be covering their journeys in future episodes, along with the bulldozers who are still loving their new home. So, there you have it. My ants and I have a new space to call home, while the baby room is now complete. 4 of my 7 colonies are doing well. 2 are in grave danger, but can still be saved, and 1 had a psycho queen that went feral and ate all her children for no reason. Is this a bad time to pitch ant keeping as a fun, lighthearted hobby for all ages? Keeping ants is a lot of fun, but try not to get discouraged when things don't work out. Because while a lot of species are pretty easy, there are many that are actually pretty sensitive. I'm not an entomologist or an ant expert. I'm just a guy keeping ants that's learning along the way. Come back next time to watch the bulldozers move into their new home, as the story of the ants marches on. If you enjoyed this story, drop a like and check out some of my other videos. Thanks for watching.